Alright, hey guys, Raz here. So I promised to do a little RPG guide for rogues. I'll be covering every spec except Outlaw, because Outlaw is irrelevant and is not played in any map. So I don't really feel like I need to touch on that at all, actually. So yeah, it'll be a bit like the Assassination Rogue guide I did. Like very like just I just talk and then go over stuff really. Not gonna edit or anything. Yeah. I was gonna find some clips, but every time we play, I forget to record, so I don't really have any clips. But maybe I'll try to upload some if I remember or care enough to do that. Uh, like base defending or ninjaing or blah blah blah. Those things, yeah. Clips would be quite nice, but yeah, I don't uh, I don't have any of those right now, so you're gonna have to do without. Um, so basically, the first thing I'll touch on right now is legendaries, because legendaries are quite like there's a lot of legendaries to go over in RPG. I feel like a lot of them could be good or are good. Um, so the first one that I'm using a lot in PvP at the moment is obedience. I don't know if it's the best or not, or anything really. Um, but I like it. At least in like I only would really play sub where I would want to care about legendary a lot is if I'm like defending on an FC map and you're only going to be defending on an FC map. FC maps being Twin Peaks and Warzone Gulch. You'll only be defending if you have two rogues on your team, right? And even then, you might send both rogues offense. But Obedience is quite nice because you have pretty much 1 minute CD and flagellation, um, and then you have more opportunities where you can kill people, of course. And you don't have to commit Vanish. Vanish is quite nice to have in case you need to like get out of slow or something, especially in RPG because a lot of people have slows and all those things are really annoying to deal with if you have to use, for example, Master Assassin to do damage with. Um, Another one that's pretty fun and could be decent with some one-shot stuff. One-shot stuff is actually okay in RPG because you have more time to set stuff up with the one-shot stuff than you do in, say, Arena. So the run is also something you could consider playing. Um, I liked playing it on Seething Shore back when that was a thing. So if they do happen to add Seething Shore back, the Rotten could be something that could be interesting. Because if you can solo someone on a node randomly, whenever you feel like it, that's pretty big to be able to do. Um, Invigorating Shadow Dust is also really good, um, especially if you want to go for a base, like ninjaing a base. Say you blind someone and then they trinket the blind, then you can come back and you will have blind back before they have trinket, which is pretty strong. Um, so this this is something that nobody does, okay? Like literally nobody, and it could be big. I haven't tried it myself either. This is literally something that I've thought about, but I haven't actually gotten to try it yet. Um, but in RPG, you can swap stuff during the game, right? And you do this in PvE where you use this. I can show you. So you have this belt, for example, and then you vanish, and you see the buff. I put on my other gear. I still have the buff, right? So you could do that, something like that, in RPG. So this one could also be pretty interesting, um, just for those things. Like if you want to open on a flag carrier or something, you get a little extra damage. Usually, if you do that, you would want to play Master Assassin though, so that's like a little bit of something that you won't be able to do. But it's still interesting. It is worth noting that this does not work as any other spec than sub. For some reason, Blizzard fixed this for the other specs, but not for sub. So yeah, that's the one thing. Um, you do get 5 common points when you do this, but the 5 common points disappear when you change legendary, so you have to use them. So the best thing to do is like vanish, slice and dice, and then you obviously get the pre-med common points from slice and dice being up already. So that's okay, I guess. Um, then Obedience we already covered. And Zephyrus. Zephyrus is the best legendary for when you're defending. Um, by far, even. It makes you like it just throws people off a bit because nobody really expects it. Zephyrus, like there's nothing else that would make any sense to use if you're defending. Just the 10% ground control reduction is really nice. Even if it doesn't matter that much, sometimes it can come in clutch. Um, that's literally it for sub the legendaries for sub. Then for Asa, obviously Doomblade is actually not the greatest in RPG. It could be something again, Seething Shore in case that comes back. if you just want a PvE like a 3v3 or whatever on a little node, then yeah, Doomblade is probably fine. But you don't really use this in RPG too much because when you're playing Asa, you are either doing it on FC map, Warsaw Gulch Twin Peaks, and there you want Mark of the Master Assassin. I'll get into why later. So Doomblade doesn't really have a place in RPG other than in case Seething Shore comes back. Um, this one, mm, eh, I have not tried this and I don't think anyone else has, but it could be okay if you're playing like Deadly Poison or something on Silver Shard Mines and you're just spamming AoE damage. There's nothing else that would really make any sense, except maybe Essence of Bloodfang. I have not tried this either. But this was supposed to be pretty good AoE legendary early on, but I can't remember, something happened with it. But that's about it. Like those two could be decent for AoE, but obviously it's a bit much to make a legendary just for that. Maybe at least at the moment you could make a 235 one pretty easily and be fine like that, I guess. Um, and then there is nothing else really. The other ones are also just what's up, the same as what's up, right? Obviously this one, the Deathly Shadows one, doesn't work for Asa. If you want to swap it, you could use it and not swap, but yeah. That's pretty much it. Soldic, terrible in PvP, terrible. This one, again, I don't know. I don't think it would be better than Doomblade on Seething Shore, for example. So I don't think it's worth mentioning. Right, the next thing we're going to cover is races. Races are pretty much the same as all other aspects of PvP. Um, Obviously, Orc for Horde is the best by far. It makes you not be able to get kidney capped on like a base map. Say you're defending and you walk on top of the flag for some whatever reason in a 1v1 against another rogue. They can just mark for death, kidney you, and cap the base. Because it's a 6-second stun and it takes 6 seconds to cap the base. So Orc helps a bit with that, which is pretty nice. And obviously stun reduction in general in PvP is amazing. So you always want to be Orc if you're able to be Orc. Obviously right now I'm undead, just ignore that. I would be Orc if I was focusing on PvP right now. Um, there's like some other races are okay as well, I guess. Like Goblin is okay as well in some ways. You can do some fancy stuff with Rocket Jump, maybe. But I don't really think there's any other races that are worth mentioning other than Orc, really. It is by far the best race, so just go Orc if you want to be a Horde gamer. For Alliance, Night Elf is the best, easily. Human is like okay as well, but Night Elf just wins. Shadow Melt is amazing for everything PvP related. Um, Even better so on FC maps because you have another like potentially big damage go with Shadow Melt. I'll get into that later as well. Um, so that's it for races, pretty much. So then there is like general talent slash PP talents, I guess I'll go over. Um, I guess I'll go over on like general specs on the different maps. So this spec I'm playing here, these talents, this is what I would play if I was defending on Arathi Basin, Eye of the Storm, Gilneas. What else do you defend on? I think that's it pretty much right now. Deep Gorge as well, of course. Forgot that one. You play this. I like Thief's Bargain just because Vanish is quite nice to have when you're defending. There's nothing else that would really make sense to play when you're defending. This one can be okay, I guess, but I don't really like it personally. I think Thief's Bargain is better. Um, Bomb, mandatory in case you want to ninja base or something, for example. Or it's also pretty good for defending sometimes. And Duel, amazing. The best PP talent by far. Just yeah, you can one-on-one someone for 5 seconds, and other people won't be able to see you unless they have like AoE stuns or something. This is really really nice to be able to like recover a base or spin your own base. Um, then I mean this is always picked in PP, except if you want to play a Gloomblade for like one-shot build, as I mentioned earlier, you can do that, but that's not relevant at the moment. Subterfuge, nice extra utility, stun some more people before you have to use the Shadowlands. Mark for Death, the best talent here, just in case you won't need like on-demand combo points for like, as I mentioned earlier, kidney capping someone. Mark for Death kidney, cap the base. Irrelevant here pretty much irrelevant here as well. Can't play Shot in the Dark, it's okay. All these are fine, depending on whatever you prefer. I always play Prayer in the Week though. Um, Enveloping Shadows, always nice to have two Shadow Dances in RPG. Ensuring Tornado, this is like mandatory on defend maps, base maps, as I mentioned. This is the talents I would play when I was defending. Um, so if you're getting CC'd and then you need to trinket, this is just a nice button to have. So you trinket and then press it instantly, right? And then just you spin it for another 4 seconds. The only way another team can counter doing like you using this is if they clone it. That's the only thing that stops this, is a clone. Everything else you will spin through. So say you're getting inked by a Guardian Druid and a Rogue, for example. So most Guardian Druids play a talent called Brambles, and whenever they take damage, they will deal damage to the person that does the damage to them. So and this does make you do damage to them. So if you trinket and use this, most of the time, the way someone will go for your base is the Druid comes out of stealth, he incants and caps the base. Then the Rogue pops a smoke bomb on him. Then what you want to do is evasion, vanish, run into bomb, and then duel the Druid. You can cloak as well, because very smart players will war stomp you. Obviously, not everyone who's a Tauren Druid, but they should just war stomp clone you. The reason why you evasion is so you can't get a roared, because you can dodge roar with evasion, incapitating roar, whatever you want to call it. Um, so that's why you evasion when you walk in. And then you get CC'd a little bit, and then you trinket Shuriken Tornado, and then you spin for 4 seconds. And many rogues will just blind straight into it because they don't see it, and then you break the blind by doing damage to the Guardian Druid. All of that might be a bit confusing. Obviously, I will go into that later as well. But this is the talents I would play with if I was defending a sub. And then if you're playing, say, offense on an FC map, I would play these talents. I actually like Thieves Bargain a bit, but I probably would take either Thick as Thieves, just to buff whatever other person you have there, or Maneuverability. You can choose between those three, depending on your preferred talent. I like Thieves Bargain because then you have Vanish more often, although you do a little bit less damage whenever you use Shadow Blades. But it's fine, usually don't really care too much about Shadow Blades. And also 10% damage is not much when the enemy FC has a lot of stacks. Um, those talents are the ones I would play if I was offense. And team fight as well. Um, yeah, that's pretty much it for the sub talents, honestly. Sub is pretty, that's like 2 bills that I would play. Then I'll go into Asa. Moment. Uh, for Asa, on teamfight maps, this is what I play right here. You can play cheat death if you're not comfortable. I usually play elusiveness. But this is nice. Night Stalker and Hidden Blades synergizes very well. On, say, Kotmoku, for example, if the other team has, by some miracle, they have 4 orbs, and then you walk into the enemy team and they're all stacked. You go stealth and you use Phantom Knives, and then you crit 40k on all the orbs. That's pretty nice. So that's like the FC, not the FC, the team fight map spec I play usually. Night Stalker is also quite nice if you want to go for like a one shot on someone in team fight. On your own, you can usually solo someone. And then for FC maps, I would play these talents here, like this. I'll go into why later. But yeah, that's very nice. Defending Assassin wouldn't do it, so I'm not going to go over it. You should always play sub if you want to defend. Good RPG rogues can play both specs, so play both specs if you can. You swap depending on the map. I will go over which maps you play on what later. That's pretty much the talents. And then for Covenants, right now on Venthia, as you can see, on Venthia, that's mostly for PvE, although Venthia is really good in PvP as well, especially for FC maps. I think Venthia might be one of the better FC map specs or Covenants at the moment, if you're offense and defense, just because it has a lot of damage. A lot of damage, so, and bursty damage as well. Flagellation is also magic damage, so it's probably the best offense covenant just based off of everyone playing Guardian Druid, at least if you play sub. Um, I think if you play Asa, which you should on FC maps in offense, I think Kyrian is better just because you have Envenom, which is magic damage, but sub has Eviscerate, which is physical damage, right? Um, so you do that instead. So Kyrian is probably the best overall. It has changed a bit because Kyrian got a little legendary that is really, really strong. And Necrolord is, I mean, after talking with my rogue partner, Willex, uh, he didn't feel like he liked Necrolord too much. I personally don't mind Necrolord still, um, based off a few experiences now this season. Necrolord was really good in those situations. Necrolord is still extremely good, say on Silver Shard Mines and you're off cards or something and you have to 2v2 against like a rogue boomkin or something. That's pretty normal. Then Necrolord comes in very handy because you have a lot more survivability than the other covenants. Although Kyrian is also pretty good there because you have the pot. So those two are probably the best still, I would say. Venthia's like not that great compared to the other two. I think the survivability that Kyrian and Necrolord has is really strong. There's also some really strong soulbind stuff with the other two, whereas Venthia is lagging a bit behind on the good things for rogues in RPG right now. So Kyrian and Necrolord, I would say, are the best. Night Fae, you can have the mobility with the Soul Shape, but Night Fae is like really not that great. All the other three, I would say, are better than Night Fae. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much it. That goes for both specs, like Sub and Asa. I think Kyrian and Necrolord are the best. Choose whatever you prefer. Um, okay, now we go over which specs to play on which maps. So I will go in here. Quick match, specific PGs. Okay, so on Wars and Gulch you would play, and I'm gonna go over everything. On Wars and Gulch you would play Asa if you are offense. That means if you are hitting the enemy's FC, then you would play Asa. Just because right now every single person or team, I guess, is playing Guardian Druid FCs, at least in EU, um, and NA from what I've seen on streams. And Asa has a lot of magic damage, and bleed damage is really nice as well because the Guardian Druid won't be able to kite. Some Guardian Druid likes to kite, which is fine. Then they have bleeds on them most of the time, and then yeah, they will not be able to kite too much because the dots will kill them. Um, but the thing Asa can do is they can have an insane amount of burst with the Night Stalker build I showed you earlier. So you would build 5 combo points, Shiv, Vanish, Envenom. Pretty much, right? So that's extremely strong. Obviously, if you're Kyrian, you would play the Master Assassin Talent. Talent. Emphasis on that so you're all aware. Talent Master Assassin gives you 50% crit for 3 seconds. So you would do that, and then for the Legendary, you would play Resounding Clarity. And then you would have very, very, very strong Envenoms, like multiple in a row, and you will literally solo the FC. That's why I think Kyrian is really strong as Asa right now, in RPG at least. So you do that. If you're defending, Asa can still be fine, but I do think I prefer Sub, just because it's nice and Sub can still kill someone alone. Um, but yeah, right now Asa is, I mean, you don't really win by slowing right now, which is, Asa's really good at slowing, for example, but that's really a lot better with a Demon Hunter tank. But everyone plays Guardian Druid right now. So I do think Sub is better if you're defending. And obviously you would only be defending if you run 2 rogues. Um, a lot of people do run 2 rogues though, so it could be pretty common that you would be defending. But it's obviously something you're going to have to take into account yourself. So here, as an offense, sub defense on Wars and Gulch. That goes for Twin Peak as well, so I won't cover that later. AB, you play sub every game, even if you're 2 rogues, unless you really like to team fight or whatever, and your team lets you. But right now, in my team, we run 2 sub rogues on Arathi Basin. Allier Storm, same thing. Again, Axa is actually pretty good on this map on either Storm. since it's a somewhat small team fight, like a little bit smaller area, so you will do a lot more damage than you would on an AB, for example. On AB, you most likely would not play um, AoE spec. You would probably play like some arena talents instead. Go for some 3v3s or whatever. Um, but AB, you actually can make an impact in a team fight. So Asa isn't terrible here, but we also do play two rogues as sub on EOTS. Ganeas, I play Asa in team fight usually, but sub can also be okay. Um, Depending on what strat you use, you can do a thing where you send um, top secret strat here. We did this in a tournament last season. We would send both our druids, depending on your comp. Obviously, this is not relevant for everyone, but you send some people to Lighthouse and you just force them out of team fight, and yeah, you split the team fight a bit. It can be pretty good. Then you can. It's very good if you have like the stealth meta where you have like say you have 2 or 3 druids on your team and then you have 2 rogues. And then one rogue is defending, obviously. The other rogue is just in stealth with the druids. And then at any point, you can just open on a base and kill everyone, right? That's pretty good to do. Um, so that whatever your team wants to do here, if they want to go for the team fight, I think Asa is better. But if they want to do like split strat or whatever, then I think you should be sub, just because sub is better in those small skirmishes. Twin Peaks, covered that already, same as Warzone Gulch. Silver Shard. So we played double rogue off cards, 2 sub rogues. But if you want to play teamfight, Asa is really, really strong on Silver Shard Mines teamfight. So I don't think it's bad at all. But play Asa if you want to be in teamfight. You do so much damage. And it's really easy to spread your Mortal Strike, so it'll help a lot. Um, Obviously, sub can be fine in teamfight as well. If you want to play like lockdown and just CC people out of the card, that's a perfectly viable strat as well. Can be good if you have good druids that clone a lot of your stuns and stuff, or just by themselves, of course. Can be good to play sub and teamfight and just CC people out, yeah. But I do recommend Asa if you're teamfighting on Silver Shard. Temple of Kadmogu, we usually play one Asa and one sub. As I mentioned earlier, Asa is really, really strong at killing orbs actually. With the Night Dogger, Fan of Knives stuff. You come out of stealth and Fan of Knives their orbs and kill them all, pretty much. So that's really strong. So if you do happen to be playing double rogue, you can play one Asa, one sub. One rogue, I think I would prefer Asa, but obviously sub is fine as well. It all depends on what your comp is. Try it out and see whatever feels better. Deep Wind, we played double sub rogue defending. Asa can be okay. Market teamfight can sometimes be a bit like cluttered or whatever, so you could get some decent damage out there with AoE talents. Otherwise, just see what it feels like and adjust accordingly. That's all there is to it, really. So that about covers that for when to play which spec. So team fighting. Obviously, as sub, you would just run around and stun people. Um, yeah, sub team fight is pretty straightforward. Same with us, honestly. As sub, you set up your team or try to at least. Obviously, this requires you to be vocal. Something I'm not always the best at myself, so it is a bit rough. But try to call your stuns. If you wanna, you can set up stuff very well. If you have your druids, uh, if you make sure your druids are aware of when you're stunning, so they can clone off stuff, you can do really good setups. Um, and then as Asa, you just kind of AoE stuff down. You still call your kidneys, of course. Try to do setups with kidneys. Overextending melees are usually really good to kidney. Like if there's a red Pally, he's a good kidney target a lot of the time. Else, Ellis Shaman or Boomkin is also a really good kidney target. Um, you pretty much just spread your ruptures. You fan of knives, spam, and then spread ruptures. It's important to have 4 to 5 ruptures up. I like to have at least, so you get some energy rolling. Garrote is also nice to press, just because it's a free bleed, really. Don't have to do anything other than press it. Um, that's all there is to it. Spread bleeds, have good uptime on bleeds to make sure you don't energy starve yourself, and then try to do setups with your kidneys. Um, Look for overextending melees. There are a lot of those people at the moment, so that's really important to be on the lookout for. Obviously, communicate with your team, or try to, and make sure that you get some good setups. That's team fighting pretty much. You just have to be vocal or try to be as vocal as possible with your team and make sure they know what you're doing. Also, you can also listen to what your team says. If they are like about to do something, then you can try and connect with them, of course. Um, yeah, team fighting, pretty straightforward. It's more like play a lot and you'll learn what to do eventually. Um, so on FC maps and what to do on FC maps. So this is where a clip would be nice, for example. So if you're defending a sub, your job is a lot of the time to stun overextenders. Like, okay, most of the time people will have a disc priest in offense. And disc priests aren't the most mobile healer in the game. So if you have a second DPS, it's very common to have like a warlock in defense or something at the moment. Even though they don't have the corruption slow anymore, they have curse of exhaustion, which is really nice. Usually they will have that on the disc. And then you just kind of just kill the overextenders on your own. That's where it's nice to have obedience. I like that personally, because you have every minute you can kill someone on your own. So you can kill an overextender. You can kill a rogue on your own with no cooldowns at all, really. They die really fast. So that's nice. So a lot of time your job is to kill overextenders as a sub rogue in defense. Um, Obviously, if your warlock calls that he can kill the priest or whatever, then you should help him kill the priest. But yeah, you just stun people a lot, peel for your FC on the enemy cooldowns. It's really nice if you like look out for when the enemy team's druids press incan, like boomkins for example. You will always have a boomkin in offense, like 99% of the time. So if you can blind incan, that's really good. And then you can defensive bomb your FC, for example, or you can duel the boomkin after he trinkets the blind on his incan, and then his old incan is kind of useless, wasted. So that's really good. Um, yeah, that about covers that for defense. Again, it's really situational, so it's hard to sit here and make a perfect guide for it. It's something you have to play yourself to kind of get a feel of. Um, in offense, this is like the tricky part. A lot of rogues struggle with this. Using your mobility properly is really important, right? So say this guy is the FC. This is gonna look really weird, but now I sprint and then 2 seconds after I step. Then you have one step assassin. You kind of wasted your whole mobility kit right there, right? Because you have freedom sprint and you don't need to step as well. Try to use as little mobility to get to him as possible. It's really wasted if you use your sprint and your step in one go. That's really, really wasted. Um, Another thing that's really important, I like doing this personally. Um, if the enemy team has like a DK or a melee or some sort that's sitting on you the entire time, just walk away. Literally just turn around and walk away or whatever. Make them either follow you or get off you. If you get a re-stealth, you're so much scarier than if you're out of stealth getting tunneled by a melee, being slowed the whole game. Anytime you're in stealth, the enemy's FC has to worry about how to kite, and then he can get like caught off guard or whatever, right? Also, if it's like a DK or a warrior, they have AoE slows or really annoying slows, so they they'll be slowing your entire team while slowing you. So it really helps your team as well if you just walk away, because a lot of the time people do just sit on rogues, which is not always the best. So just walk away, really. It's a really like the best tip I can give you. In offense, use your mobility as smart as possible. Don't waste it. Don't use two mobilities in one go. You can use, if you're playing sub or something, you can use your vanish um, to get a re-stealth and sit in stealth. Like sitting in stealth is extremely strong on FC maps if you're offense, because it does just make the enemy team have to be like worried about you. So that's really nice. Um, but yeah, that's about it for FC maps. What to do? A few tips, I guess. Trinkets in RPG. So trinkets were a big thing last season, where you could swap between medallion and adaptation. It's fixed now. As soon as you equip adaptation, you get a 30-second cooldown, as you can see. So that's not really anything anymore. So it's more about the offensive trinkets. Maledict or shackles, whatever you want to call it, is extremely strong, obviously. Um, especially in offense on an FC map, but also in team fights. Communicate with your team. if someone uses it, obviously you don't use yours the same go, because then the enemy team could just press the spell once and they're all gone. Try to force the spell and then you use yours, or blah blah blah, you know? Talk to a team about when you use yours, and then it'll be very, very, very good, very strong. Like you can almost solo an FC with Maledict at the moment. Um, I usually just have Maledict equipped unless I'm defending, then I like to use Emblem or Battlemaster. I think that's probably the best trinket for that. Just in case someone tries to kill you, you have a little bit of extra survivability. Um, Badge can also be good in case you don't really like Maledict. I do recommend Maledict in RPG though, especially if most of your team is playing it, because you can actually do some really good stuff with it, in like force the spells and then use it afterwards, of course, as I mentioned. Just really communicate with your team, and then this will be probably the best trinket overall. But then once this is on cooldown, you can always just swap. Yeah, swapping gear in RPG is nice. You can do it a lot. It helps a bit. Um, I guess one thing you could do now is, if you really want to sweaty, try hard, with Medallion and whatever else you have, Adaptation, Relentless, you can still use use your trinket and then you vanish out of combat and you can equip the Relentless, I guess. But usually it won't help you. Like you're not going to keep the base with Relentless. Um, but maybe a little bit it'll help. Um, okay, so now we get into the stuff where I would love to have some clips, and maybe I'll post a clip or something in my Discord at some time. So I'll give you guys a link to my Discord in the description. Um, but I sadly do not have any recordings right now because I always forget to record. Um, but yeah, ninjaing and defending bases. First, we'll go over ninjaing. I don't think. Can I see this guy? I can. Okay, perfect. Then it's fine. Um, so basically, when you're inking someone or ninjaing that base, you're gonna be having a druid with you most of the time, yeah? So say your druid is here, coming out of stealth. I don't have one more on right now, but then you drop the smoke bomb. This is scuffed as fuck, but I'm sorry. Um, you drop the smoke bomb on him, and then obviously this is like a big struggle for a lot of rogues. Sap is 10 yards. Smoke bomb happens to be 8 yards. So for the rogue to sap your druid, obviously he can't because he's an incan. But in case you're inking with a boomkin or something, then he would have to come into bomb. So as soon as your druid gets sapped, your druid trinket roars, and then he just keeps capping. You step kidney the rogue while he's in the roar, and then you duel him. The rogue will have to trinket the stun chain, and then you blind him, and then you have the base. Very nice. Um, it's really, really easy to get bases at the moment, because most rogues, including myself, tend to panic a lot when they get inked by people, because it is extremely, extremely stressful to get inked, or like, yeah, have people at your base is really stressful. Um, but yeah, you just have to try and stay calm. Uh, so if you're ninjaing with a Guardian Druid, the chances are that you bump him on the incount, the rogue will come in and duel your Guardian Druid. Then it's kind of up to your Druid to try and get some CC to force Trinket while he's in the duel, which is usually like Raw Clone or Stomp Clone or whatever they can get. But after that, you can obviously help your Druid again. Um, the main thing is just try to smoke bump and then be quick with CC. That's literally all there is to it. Like the faster you can do a step kidney, the better. And then you duel him, and then after duel you blind. Uh, like after the drink you blind, and then you have the base. Again, really scuffed without clips, but I'll try to post them in my Discord if anyone cares. And then defending a base. This is also again scuffed without clips, but I'm just gonna go over it in like voice here. So Guardian Druid Rogue is at your base. The Guardian Druid has Incarn up. You need to walk into the bomb. Okay, scratch that. We go back. They're at your base. Incarn, they bomb the flag. You press. You're in stealth. You press evasion. Your stealth breaks. Because of this, you need to press vanish. That's why you press evasion first, then vanish. This makes you immune to the roar. Oh, you will dodge the roar 100%. You can even dodge it from behind. so it doesn't matter which way you're facing. And then you duel the druid. Um, you duel the druid. The druid will either war stomp you or raw straight into the evasion and try to clone you. Obviously, you kick the clone if he tries to clone you. If he war stomps you, you gotta be fast and cloak. You need to realize if he's about to war stomp you, okay? You shouldn't cloak until you know if he's war stomping or not. War stomp is like a decent cast time, so you have time to react. If you don't react, obviously that's unlucky. Well, not really, just play better. But that's pretty much it. And then after the duel, you probably need to try to CC the rogue. You have blind, that's fine. Then you can blind him. Then he's gonna trinket, see you, and then he's gonna fully stun you. Like you're stunned for 6 seconds into 2 seconds into 1 second, right? Like that's the CC chain. So that's 9 seconds of CC on you. You need to trinket the stun chain, and then you instantly press Shuriken Tornado. Like you trinket Shuriken Tornado, and then you spin for another 4 seconds. This is where most rogues will just blind straight into Shuriken Tornado. And if it's a Guardian Druid, the blind will break, and then you have another DR to keep the base, right? Because you're on stun DR and you're on clone slash blind DR. So you're chilling. By this time, if someone is not at your base and you lose it before the next DR, or and you lose it next DR, it's not your fault, and then you need to talk to your team about being faster at going to your base. Um, yeah, then you need to not worry or care because it's not your fault. I've been messaged many times, for example, saying I keep getting kicked because I lose my base, but no one helps me. Just don't care. If someone says it's your fault for losing your base when you've kept it for a whole DR, it's not your fault at all, whatsoever. Don't worry about it. Okay, so now it's a boomkin and a rogue trying to get your base. Same thing, um, except this time he doesn't have the Incan legendary, obviously, because he's a boomkin. So this time he's on the flag, he's been bombed. You walk into the you you're in stealth, you evasion, vanish, and then you just sap him instead. I can't sap a target dummy, but you just sap him instead. He will most likely trinket raw, but you will dodge it because you have evasion up, and you. I'm not sure if you stay in stealth or not. I'm not 100% sure on that. You might stay in stealth. I'm pretty sure you stay in stealth. Um, Obviously, if you vanish late enough, you might still have the vanish buff, so you'll definitely stay in stealth. And then the druid has no trinket. Then you can either resap him. I'm not sure if he gets in combat from the dodge on the raw, but if he is in combat, then you obviously just blind him, and then you have kept your base for a bit longer. Boomkin Rogue is pretty easy to keep your base against for a decent amount of time, as long as you stay calm and manage to like do the really really scripted stuff. It is really scripted. Like believe me, if you don't mess it up, you will be fine. Um, and then again, your team has a limited amount of time to get to you. You're very reliant. You usually try to give your team like 30 seconds or so to get to you. That's usually enough. Um, but yeah, there's not much more to it. Defending is a bit rough sometimes. It's a stressful situation to be put in, but you just have to try and do your best. If you mess up sometimes, that's what it is. Everyone messes up. Um, any general tips, I guess, as a last thing? I can't even think of any. Speculating. I mean, the only thing is like be vocal. This is something I personally struggle with a bit sometimes. Well, not a bit, a lot. Sometimes you're just in your own little world, and it can be hard to get a word in whenever you have 9 other people talking at the same time. Just have to try and be very like almost yelling if you can, like when you're doing stuff, stunning, etc. Um, but yeah, be smart about what gear you use. You can use different legendaries, as I mentioned earlier. It can be worth to try it out. This Deathly Shadow swing for sub, for example, could be good on some maps if you want to go for some extra damage on your go. But yeah, general tips as well. I guess like rogue job is really stressful. So just if you mess up, it happens. Trust me. Just have to try and have a strong mental because it can be a lot to handle sometimes. Don't worry too much. If you get kicked from a group because you lost your base, and you defended it for 20 plus seconds, it's not your fault, and you just gotta keep gaming. I guess general tips. Actually, yeah, little bit of a tip here. If you have two rogues in your team, one thing that is maybe worth it, well, it is definitely worth it, is using one rogue uses numbing poison instead of crippling poison, because you don't need two crippling poisons, right? Numbing poison helps a little bit. So that's a little tip if you're two rogues in your team. Um, that's about it. But yeah, little outro, I guess. Very scuffed guide again. I'm sorry. I'm terrible at these things, but yeah. If you have any questions, I will link my Discord below, and you can join that and then message whatever. I'll also try and post some clips from like my main team games um, once in a while if I feel like it. I'll probably try and get some defending slash ninjaing recordings, just to make up for not having anything here, since that obviously sucks a bit. But uh, but yeah, hopefully this was somewhat useful. If I didn't cover everything, then feel free to let me know. I just went off of like I just winged it pretty much. So yeah, if I missed anything and you want me to cover something or answer anything, please do just message me. Um, Not the best at checking YouTube comments, so I'd much rather you message me on Discord or something. I'm not a YouTuber and I will never be a YouTuber. Um, so either ask my stream or on my stream or on my Discord. But yeah, hopefully it helped a little bit, as I said. And yeah, thanks for watching. Bye 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 bye.